in this list about the ma'am, which you will get to know after the next session. So, ma'am, now please hold the footpace. The footpace is yours and guide to all our participants with your valuable knowledge.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful introduction. And I request all the participants that today's session is just last session of this particular workshop. So stay calm, and I'll not be taking much time, but yes, I'll be giving you so many important information about the conclusion. So as you already know that first of all, I would like to thank Research Foundation of India, so that like they have provided me this opportunity to provide this particular lecture. And I've always been involved in research paper writing and publications. Number of things I have done while I was in academics full time. I am also taking visiting lectures right now, but yes, the research was one of my favorite thing to do while I was in academics. I'm still teaching to the students, but yes, whenever I teach them anything, so I also tell them the importance of research. So that should be included by you also while you are teaching to the students. Okay, so now today, as you already know that you have done so many work in your research maybe, and some of you maybe in the starting of your work. But yes, this FDP must have given you number of suggestions, insights, and various different aspects of research paper. Especially if somebody is there as a research scholar, they can take the help of this particular step-by-step guide for writing a research paper to their thesis as well, because research paper is nothing, it's just a small or a small part of your thesis. So the same steps you have to follow while you are doing your thesis also. So the most importantly, you should focus on the steps, the key points, and what to do while you are writing a research paper. Same thing you have to follow in your thesis as well. So today the last session is on conclusion. So without taking much time, I'm just telling you some more points. Just a minute. Yeah. So as you already know that you have done so many things, like you have talked about writing the research paper, you have talked about introduction, literature review, tools, testing, and so many other things. So without delay, let me go to my slides. So I hope it is visible to you all. Just a minute. So if we talk about in a day one, you must have studied about the topic. How should you choose the topic? I'm just giving you one a summary of it. Then we'll be coming on my topic. So the first topic which you have studied was problem identification and formulation.
Ma'am, sorry for the disturbance, but the slide is not visible.
I'm just sharing the slides, ma'am. Just a second. So if we talk about the day one, we talked about the problem identification and art of writing a literature review. So before even I must say that before defining the literature review, you should know what is your title. You can have a small, a kind of idea what exactly you want to do, so that you can take a direction that where to go, what kind of literature you should search for. So yes, after that, you talked about research designing and sampling. So the methodology is very much important in any of research paper or thesis, I must say. So whenever you are talking about research methodology, it is talking about number of things: research design, type of research, sampling, and other tools for data collection and everything. There is one more important topic which I have just mentioned, the tools for data collection, that is questionnaires. We have also discussed this particular point in one of the day. So the questionnaire designing and development, then rescaling it, then giving the pilot study to this particular thing, then finally going for a final data collection. Then application of MS Excel for analysis also, even the SPSS you have talked, the expert has talked about. Then whenever we are going for any kind of tools and application or analysis or something like that, we should know how to make our objectives. The objectives should be clear, and also we have to develop the hypothesis accordingly, right? Then once everything is done, we should write uh, the final thing, that is conclusion. Before also, whenever you are writing any kind of work, any kind of point, a topic, you should always use references, you should discuss, you should write down the you should mention the citations. Also, nowadays there is one more thing which is about the plagiarism issues. So we should also understand the ethical issues and plagiarism issues while we are writing. We should always aware of it, what exactly it is and how to remove it. So in one of the day you have also discussed this. Also, whenever you are going for any kind of publication, once the paper is done, you have to basically check out the final research paper. So today, in after everything, as you already discussed, in 9 days, so I am just sharing my slides that is on writing the conclusion. So let me share the slides. I hope, Nikita ma'am, now my slides are visible to you all. Yeah. So my title for today is conclusion or summary, right? So we are going to talk about this. I am just giving you some very, very brief points, not a detailed information on anything, because you all are already on a good position and understand all this. But yes, the key points I'm just discussing with you, you may be knowing or may not be. So we are going to discuss it today. So if we talk about the format or the parts of a research paper, it starts with the abstract writing. After the title, we should write the first step is coming the abstract, but it comes in the last part. We should write it after everything is done. But yes, the first step or the first thing which we see in any of the research paper, that is abstract. Then the introduction of the study, literature of review of literatures or literature review, you call it. Then research methodology, then results. We give this, see, I am also taking you like with the thesis, like along with the research paper, I'm also giving you some suggestion on thesis as well. So if we talk about the results word, we can also call it data analysis and interpretation. Sometimes it is written as results and interpretation. So that is whatever you are comfortable with, you can write. Both the words are correct. Sometimes next step we write the findings, we also call it major findings. Sometimes people write it like findings and discussion. Sometimes directly it comes findings and conclusion. So as many as thesis you study, research paper you see, as per the type of the research paper or requirement of the research paper, we can change these particular headings, or we can mold it according as per the requirement. But yes, the gist should be there, the finding should be there, the conclusion should be there. Then the last thing which comes, all the citations, whatever we are doing, we should keep it in the last. So generally it is in the last. Sometimes people use it as a footnotes as well, but nowadays most of the people are using it as a in the last as the references. Okay, so the conclusion is intended to help the reader understand why your research should matter to them after they have finished reading the paper. So whenever somebody is completing your paper and they are reading the conclusion, see, whenever we want to study any of the particular topic or something, so we try to find out the research papers, right? And whenever we are trying to find out the research papers, so we see their abstract. So abstract is also a summary kind of thing, which includes your conclusion as well, some section of methodology as well. But what is conclusion, I'll be going to tell you. But in conclusion, basically it should give a total matter, whatever you have written in your study, so that should come. I will tell you what should be there. So a conclusion is not merely a summary of your points or a restatement of your research problem, but it is a synthesis of key points. Then a conclusion is the final paragraph of a research paper that serves to help the reader and understand why your research should matter to them. If somebody is taking your research paper, they are citing your research paper. So they should know by reading this conclusion that why it is connected to their study and why they should consider it or they should read it. So the conclusion includes major three parts, but there are so many others I'll be telling you. So one is restate the problem statement, summarize your research paper, and discuss the implications. See, majorly your conclusion should include number of things. I call it extended part of it. So if we talk about the heading conclusion, it is summary. But whenever it's coming to extension part, there are four things. Major four things are there. One is implications of the study. Number two, future research scope. Number three, suggestions and recommendations. And number four, the limitations. I'm repeating it if somebody wants to understand again. The extended part of conclusion, which completes the conclusion as a whole. Number one, after the paragraph, number one is implications of the study. Number two, suggestions and recommendations. Number three, future research scope. And number four is limitations of the study. So these four things are, important while you are writing any of the conclusions. So again, the conclusion is about restating your problem statement. Whatever the problem statement research question you have taken, that is coming under this particular conclusion. Then whatever you have taken in your study, in your research paper or in your thesis, so also summarizing that, whatever you have done, and then discuss the implication of it. Now let me come to the next section, that is conclusions, do's and don'ts. That this is very much important. It is also giving you the whole idea about the conclusion writing. Number one, make it concise and straightforward. Again, as we have written number of things in introduction, then we have read the literatures, we have talked about our methodology in detail, then we have talked about results, then findings. Ultimately, the results and findings are going to talk about one thing only, but those are the different types how to write. It's like, see, the results are talking about just the analysis, whatever you have done, they are just giving you the results of it. But the findings are going to talk about what what are your findings out of those results. Then you have to basically shrink your findings into some paragraph or one or two paragraphs in the conclusion. So basically, somehow we are just going to talk about the thing which we have come out with, right? So simply, it should not be, conclusion part should not be that much lengthy. You can interpret while you are writing your results. You can give details while you are writing findings and discussion. But while you are writing the conclusion, you should be very concise and straightforward. Then restate your research topic, the central point of the study, right? Highlight the major outcomes. Just don't talk about everything, just what are the major ones, just talk about that. Then summarize the main points. Again, same thing, that you should talk about the main parts, main points of the study. Don't just talk everything, whatever you have done. Make a connection between opening and closing statements. So whenever you are starting your conclusion or ending a conclusion, it should be related. And the conclusion should connect it with your introduction part as well. So that is, again, it should be connected. Provide a brief overview of your paper and address whether or not it answers your research question. See, again, conclusion is talking about the whole thing, from the introduction till the findings, whatever you have done. So the overview is there, but address, right? But always try to address whatever your research questions were. Don't talk about everything. Again, just talk about or try to address something which is important. You should use some broad statements. Whenever you are writing conclusion, don't keep it in bullets while you are writing specifically in the research paper or thesis. But yes, whenever you are making presentations of it, like a pre-PhD viva or main PhD viva or presentation of a research paper, so there you can use bullet points of the conclusion. But yes, while you are actually writing it, make some paragraphs, broad statements of it. Summarize the key points and purpose of the research. Then again, the same thing, that you have to summarize the keywords of what was the purpose of the research, what was the objective of your study, why did you took that particular topic, and everything. Then state the significance or the results. So if we talk about the, again, the studies, the importance of it, why it is important, or why what results came out, so accordingly state those results and the importance of the study. Language should be simple. As we talk about 7 C's of the communication, same points you can take here, that it should be clear, it should be concise, it should be very basic in terms of understanding everything. Then write important insights of the research. If you find that there are some important insights, you can keep it there. Now, let's talk about don'ts. So, number one, do not include completely new information in your conclusion. Sometimes, just we want to make it something different. We want to give it a big screen or something like that. So we just want that, let's do it. We try to find out different words and we try to add new information, but no, the conclusion is all about whatever you have done in your study. You don't need to add anything new, right? So do not introduce new data or any new interpretation. Don't come out with your own thinking or your own mindset and everything. Whatever you have done in your paper, that should be there in the conclusions. This is very much important, that just don't add anything new. Whatever you have done, write it or rephrase it and write it in your own words, that is okay. But don't add anything new which you are just hypothetically thinking, or you are having that thing in your imagination. Don't do that. Then avoid repetition. Again and again, stop quoting the same kind of lines or words or anything which you like the most in your paper, so that is why writing it again and again. Don't do this. Avoid repetition. If you are using everything again and again, then it will look like that you are just focusing on that particular thing, and your whole idea behind your study, the conclusion will be less. Then avoid to overgeneralizing and exaggerating. Sometimes, again, because you want to give more emphasis to your work or importance to your work, emphasizing your work, so you just try to keep it more generalized. That no, I must say that exaggerating it. Or sometimes you are trying to that it should be very down to earth, so you are just over generalizing it. So don't be like, don't think the people who are studying your research papers, they are intelligent enough to understand the paper. So don't be so basic, don't be too hi-fi, just be normal. Don't try to put more and more add on data. Don't try to keep it more or less. It should be sufficient, which is just reading. Try to read it 2-3 times once you are done, and think that if somebody else is reading, are they getting your point or not. Or you can do one more thing, there is a peer review method. Like, you can ask your friends, you can ask your colleagues, you can ask your family members by like, are they able to understand the conclusion by reading it? Is that paragraph or the points which you have written, are they completing the title or giving the full knowledge, or I must say the information over the title? Is it giving the complete information? So if they give you any suggestion, you can inculcate it, otherwise you can just leave it. So just keep it simple. Then because we have already mentioned number of things in this study. So here just avoid methods, discussion and results, which we already have done in research methodology part, results analysis part, finding and discussion part. So we have already written it, so don't try to put it again here. Instead, you can mention inferences, you can write insights, and you can write the implications. Okay, so already we have given a detailed information on some points, so those points should not be included again and again. Okay, avoid phrases as in summary, in conclusion. We can see that, I assume that, you can see, like, you shouldn't, first of all, the words I and we, the words should be avoided while we are writing any kind of research work. Secondly, whenever already we are have given the heading of conclusion, that we are writing the conclusion, again you don't need to write it again and again, like in summary, in this study you can use the word in this research paper, in this particular the keywords which you are having in your research paper, you can utilize those words, but don't write again and again in summary, in conclusion and such like closing statement kind of things. Now, avoid repetition. As I have already told you, don't repeat things again and again, right? Avoid overuse complex jargons or technical terms. Sometimes we think that whatever we are writing is like understood by everyone, so it may not be possible. Sometimes because of you want to show your if good efficiency or your communication, your knowledge at English or something, so you use sometimes complex jargons which are not understandable by general people, general researchers, if somebody is new into research or something like that. Even there are some research which are using some very technical terms, so either mention it in advance, or whenever you are writing, just try to simplify it or write the meaning of it there, so that people can understand. Just don't do it to show off. Don't just simply repeat the introduction again. Conclusion uh, should be connected with the introduction, should not be the repetition of the introduction. Do not simply reiterate your results or the discussion. As I have just told you, that don't again put the methodology, results, or discussion or the findings in the conclusion, because it is already has been done, right? So basically the thing is that you should avoid this, and whatever I have suggested that you should do this, then you can, by using those tips, you can write your conclusion. Unclear connection with the introduction. Sometimes, as I have told you, do not just repeat the introduction, but it should be connected with the introduction. It should not look like that you are writing introduction on something else and you're writing conclusion on something else. The title is same, is still the same, whether you have different results or whatever it is. So it should not show that is not having a connection with the introduction. So as I have already discussed this, that what should you include or mention in your conclusion. Number one, brief overview and significance of the study, right? The overview should be given, why this study has been done, what is the importance of this study, you should mention. Then second one, the importance, describing how to apply their findings to the real world. The importance should be written, but not already we have written, must have written in the introduction part. So you should write the importance, you should mention it by describing that how it is connected and applying in the real world. Then offer suggestions and recommendations. If we talk about suggestion and recommendation, so you can write it, and for relevant future studies without introducing new information. Again, sometimes what happens, like we are giving suggestions, but we are just giving suggestions by our own imagination, that it should be done, you should do this, they should do this. It should not be like that. Suggestions and recommendations should be made on the basis of available information, or the information which is already, which is already I must say, already has been added in the research, or which we can easily uh, take out from our study. Whatever we have written in our work, so that should be connected with this. These suggestion and recommendations should not be just fake. It should not be copied. It should not be given by your own choice because you are liking it. Your thoughts should not be the part of it. You can use your thoughts in it, but yes, just to write from the results what findings you have done. So suggestions and recommendation can be made out of it. It should not be something new, which is you should not create it, right? Then share ideas for the future studies. Then again, I'm talking about the word, the future research scope. Scope for the future research scope, or ideas for the future research is the same thing. Now, if we talk about, you can give some, if you think that your study is still having some scope, obviously, no research paper and thesis can complete one topic as a whole. So what we can do is that we can suggest some ideas, what can be done. Even you can also use those ideas for your next research. So you should share or suggest some ideas for the future studies. Then, to mention the limitations of your study, obviously, because we are not God, we are not 100% perfect, and our study always having a scope. So there would be some limitations. Because of that, we could not complete that thing. Maybe a limited time, the area, the conditions, the circumstances, the period of the study, anything can be a limitation. Then discuss their implications. Now, also the implication should be there. Whatever you have done, you should provide some implication for the society. It can be for the society, it can be for the researchers, it can be for the educational research or researchers, I must say. If you are using some this particular, whatever the area you have taken, for example, any industry, any particular sector, so you can give them some suggestion to the employers, to the employees, anyone. You can provide the implications to them. Then conclude your thoughts. The final thing should come in while we are writing the conclusion, that is concluding statement. So make sure whenever you are writing the conclusion, all these things should be there. I have already mentioned that the conclusion should be there, and it should include significance and importance. Other four things: suggestions, future research scope, limitation, and implication. These can be used as a extended part of the study. Another thing, length of the conclusion. This always comes in our mind, that how big it should be. So while there is a no hard and fast rule of the length of the conclusion, it is typically one paragraph long. If you're talking about the research paper, so you may find some that 2 or 3 paragraph long, not more than that, right? In the same case, if we are talking about the length, can be, recommended. It is generally recommended to be concise. So aim for around 5 to 7 sentences, or roughly, you can also say the size. Again, it depends on the size of the paper. If you are writing an empirical paper, you're writing a conceptual paper, you are writing a review paper, and again, which kind of journal you are targeting. The journal you are targeting, like for example, you are writing it for UGC or Scopus or ABDC, whatever the type of journal you are targeting, according to that, uh, that also matters. So it depends, 1, 2, or 3 paragraphs, or you can say some a few sentences. It should not be very much big. Also, if we talk about the thesis, this might be coming in your mind, then what in case of thesis? So generally the rule, I must say the rule, generally it should be 5 or 7% or max to max the 10% of your total word count or the part of the thesis. It should not be much bigger than this, because if the conclusion again would be very elaborated, then there would be no use of writing. Then again in findings you are writing in results and everything. So some broader paragraph statements, but not the the points, only the points. And it should be very clear that if we're talking about the research paper, it should be half or one page, not more than that. I think the half page is sufficient. If we are talking about the total length of the paper, accordingly 10% you can use. Then if we're talking about the thesis, again 5 to 7 is good. Not more than 10% should be used while we are talking about the length of the conclusion. So again, there are some images I have found that how to write conclusion section. So there can be, again, the restate your problem statement, discuss the main findings, implications, which I have already discussed, then writing these limitations, and what has been learned for the future research. So what can be learned, and also the future research scope can be find out accordingly. So wrap up your ideas, find out, write the key findings, then summarize the last thoughts, whatever they are you are having in your mind. Answer the question like, so what, or now what, and finally we write the significance thing. Now, the purpose of a conclusion: summarize the key points, recap the main findings and essential aspects of your research. Whenever, again, I'm just giving you these 4 words which you can include. So one is summarize, as I have told you. Whatever the main findings, the key findings you having, you just have to give a recap of it. You just don't need to copy it, a recap of it, just a small thing where you people can recall what you have done. Then reinforce the significance, the importance of this study, the significance of this study you should emphasize on. Call to action or future directions, as I have told you. You can prompt further discussion, you can suggest actions or purpose venues for the future research. We are talking about the suggestion recommendation for the future research scope. Then last one is leaving a lasting impression. So see, the conclusion is the gist. See, whenever we watch a movie, we always think that the end should be good. If it is not a good end, then what we say, movie was good but end was not good. The end should be something which everyone can keep in our mind. For example, if we talk about the Bollywood movies, we always can assume the end because it is always a happy ending or something like where the people are happily ever after. But whenever we are talking about if nowadays now there are different web series are there which are leading us to something. They are keeping the scope of the future, and we say that yes, the next season would be there would be something in the this cannot be the end. So that is why always a research should always have a scope. But yes, there should be always there should be always something there where we are stuck. So obviously I'm not comparing the research paper with the movies, but yes, your at least something should be there which is ending. But yes, there can be some scope of keeping for the next thing. So the lasting impression is important, and the lasting impression, again, it should be like that people should wait for the next season. They should wait for your further research. They should try to find out your different next papers. Have you done some research? Or they should wait for that, right? Then, just a second. Sorry, everyone, there was an important call. Yeah. So I hope I'm audible and my slides are visible still. Somebody can tell me?
Yes,
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 ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So as I was
Now
telling
you
you,
are audible.
yeah, thank you so much. So as I was telling you that you should always make a conclusion that which has a lasting impression. There should be everything should be there in the there the people should have something in the mind where they are waiting for next, right? So your conclusion should be very much impactful, and it should include the key insights of the paper. So exactly what to do. So finally, the answer and restate the research questions what you had in your study. Summarize and reflect on the research,
Hey,
which are your key findings. Then
நான் வந்திருப்பேன்ல
you,
நான் சும்மா தானே சுத்தி வரேன்.
ma'am, somebody's mic is on. Please turn it off. Now, next one is how well the result matched the expectations. The conclusion should talk about that what you have intended for, means what were your objectives. And then again, if we are making an empirical paper, obviously we go for analysis. The hypothesis comes in, the hypothesis is there. Then we reject or accept it. So we always think that what we were expecting, what were our objectives, are they matched or not? So are the results up to the mark or not? So this also should be included in the conclusion. Why you took that approach, whatever the methodology you are following, whatever the pattern you have followed, with whatever the type of research paper you have written. So why the answer should be there. Then make recommendations and suggestions based on the conclusion. Again, as I have told you, that I always assume that this is a recommendation, suggestion, implication, futuristic scope. All these are not the part, but yes, extended part of the conclusion. You should not give it by your own choice. It should be come out, or it should be based on the conclusion. You should not give some, hypothetical things to this, right? Then emphasize your contributions, and finally wrap up the work. Means there should be again a conclusion to the conclusion. Means there is one end paragraph which is talking about the end of the work and the conclusion to the conclusion. So last thing which I would like to focus on, that is the conclusion is what? So it's a provide, basically we have to provide a concise recap of your main research outcomes or findings. Remind the readers of your research goals and their accomplishments. Then means they should think that yes, you are done with your work, whatever you were planning in this particular paper. Stick to summarizing the existing content. Don't, and always, just as I have told you, try to avoid or refrain to add new details, new interpretation. Don't use new data. Whatever you are having, you just summarize it. Emphasize why your research matters and its broader implications. As I told you, again, the importance of your study and what are the implications coming out of your study. Clearly explain the practical or theoretical impact of your findings. Again, as I have told you, the findings already you have made, but now you just need to maintain that thing that already you have done, but just write a paragraph on it and just mention some of the findings which are having some impact practically or theoretically. You can explain that. Prompt readers to reflect on how your research influences their perspective. Also, everybody, whenever they are reading the title, so they are seeking for something. So make sure that your study or your conclusion reflecting on your research. Briefly discuss the robustness of your research method. Also just tell that why you have used such tools, methods, why it was good to use a scale, why it was good to use your self-designed questionnaire, why did you take that sample, or anything. If you want to focus on any kind of research methods, and or whatever you have applied, any kind of test or something, and with a suggestion for a future research or practical application. As I have told you, again, the extended part of the conclusion, that is suggestion, and also for the future research scope, and if it is having any kind of implication, application in the future studies or something like that. Then transparently address any constraints or biasness in your study. If you have found, for example, sometimes it happens, I met number of people, whenever they are taking any topic, they think that the results would be like this, and they always try to mold their research in that way. But whenever they go for any kind of data collection or something like that, the results comes different. Those results are totally different, and in that case, what happens? They think that no, it should not be like this, I was thinking in this way, this may be wrong. They always have this in their mind. But don't be like this. Whatever your results are saying, you have to, this is what you have done in your study. The same questionnaire, if it is you are rotating 5 years back and now, can the audience can be different, the respondents can be different, the time frame, the season, the time zones, anything can be different. And because of that, the different answers can be there. There can be different opinion of the people can be there, and you can also uh, find different biases in your study. So if there is something like that, any constraint you have find, any biases you have found, anything happened with you because of which you could not get the real data or something like that, so yes, this can be mentioned. Now the next one is the last, end on a powerful note, leaving a memorable impression on your readers. As I have just told you, that mention something which is long lasting impression should be there. So leaving a memorable impression on your readers. So that's it from my side. So this was all about conclusion, I must say, what I was thinking to discuss with you. See, I cannot tell you to exactly, I cannot give you so many examples of writing any of the conclusion. Everybody has their own research, but I could have, I tried to giving you, some suggestions where you can write your introduction in this way. While reading these slide or looking at this slide, you must have understood that, which kind of pattern you should follow, what should be included. There can be anything which you can mention, where you can see that yes, this should be the pattern, that you should write first the opening statement, there should be one closing statement, in between you should write some insights, and if you have done any good findings, you should mention those. In the last, you should, after concluding statement, you can also write the extended part, as I have suggested you, that you must write limitations, future research scope, suggestion and recommendation, and in the last you can write implication, which is very much important. Especially in case of thesis, we talk about the implications are playing major roles, and everybody has their own limitations whenever we talk about the thesis, because see, it's a big thing. You cannot just take everything in your study. So this is all about conclusion, which I wanted to discuss with you all. Now, if you are having any question, you can ask me regarding this conclusion.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes, good evening.
Ma'am, I want to discuss about that after the conclusion. What are the sequence of the referencing bibliography or questionnaire? Is there any specific sequence, or
Yes.
will we arrange?
See, as I have told you, starting when you have seen abstract, then
Yes,
introduction, then
yes,
you have to write review of literature
yes,
review, or review of literature, you can say. Then,
yes,
because we are writing review of literature, after that there is one more point which comes as a part, that is research gap. Whenever you are
yes,
reading something, you might see that this is not studied, this has not been studied in the previous year, so research gap can come
yes,
there, right? Then research methodology, the next chapter, right? After that, as I have told you, data analysis and interpretation, or you can also say results and interpretation, whatever the name you want to give. The next one come as findings, major findings, or findings and discussion, you can write. The sequence properly, it should be like this. Then the conclusion. After conclusion, we write the, as I have told you, the sequence, that scope, limitations, suggestions, and implication. These are the part of conclusion only, but extended part, I must say. After this comes the references. In references, we write bibliography and bibliography. You can write internet sources, you can write book sources, any thesis you have referred. You can even differentiate, or you can mix it up as you want, as per the requirement of your thesis or research paper. You can also differentiate between the news articles or something like that. Okay. After this, as you have told me, the questionnaire is there, any reports you have used, any kind of anything, something which you have added extra or used in your thesis, for example some images. The technical subjects, basically they are using some formulas, they are using they are taking some samples, they are doing some experimentation, so photos of that or something, videos they want to add, any kind of experimentation before after thing they want to use. So these are coming after the references. You can add that is different, that is appendices. Appendix you can use, in which you can add things by using appendix 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can use. We also add questionnaire in this. We also use research paper writings, research paper publication which you have done, what present research paper presentations if you have done. So these all are coming under the appendices, whether it is a thesis format if we talk about specifically.
After bibliography.
After bibliography, appendix, we make separate section, that is appendix or annexure, you can say.
Thanks, ma'am.
Extra things are coming in that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Any other question?
What is the minimum or maximum number of pages for the?
Sorry, ma'am.
What is the minimum or maximum number of pages
For
any paper or a
ma'am,
research
see,
project?
you are talking about the whole research paper.
Yeah.
Ma'am, see, as I have told you, we cannot say that it should be like this, it should be in this one, this much. Actually, it depends on the paper. If we talk about the subject English, the 5, 6 pages are more than sufficient. Sometimes I see 6, 7 pages. But if we talk about the management paper, any particular stream where we are doing analysis, if we are writing a conceptual paper, 10, 12 pages, 13 pages are enough. In a review paper, it may come from 15 pages to 50 pages. It depends how rigorous you are doing. Bibliometric analysis is there and something like this is there. So depending upon that, if you're doing some analysis, it may around 15 to 25 pages. Which kind of test you are applying, how many objectives you have taken, again, which type of paper you are writing, which type of journal you are targeting, that matters. We cannot fix the boundaries over it. And also, whatever the idea you are having behind this topic, that should be completed. It should not be like number of pages, but yes, ideally it should be completing your idea behind it.
Okay.
Yes. Any other question? Any other question from the audience?
Ma'am, as you are the expert of foreign affairs, so we have to face a lot of issue in the area of training of MBA students or internship or writing the research paper. So would you any suggest in which area we will give two suggestion to them so that they will be independent in future
Sir, can you
for
repeat
MBA
the
students?
question? I really would like to understand it again. Can you tell me again?
Yeah, ma'am, as your profile, it is mentioned that you are the expert of foreign affairs. It means to say you are take care of foreign affairs matters. So I would request to tell you that as we are teaching in MBA students for MBA
Hmm.
students, but we
Hmm.
are facing a lot of issues regarding the internship, regarding the paper writing for the title of in the international business. So I request to you, if you have any suggestions, so you will give us so that it will be easy to us to implement the things for the students.
Sir, I'm not really getting what exactly you're expecting me to do. Like in the subject of international business, you are asking me for the suggestions to give them the topics
Yes, ma'am.
or
Topic as
what?
well as topic for research writing, for paper writing.
So see, generally what I suggest, that whatever your topic, whatever your subject is, they are having different every subject is having a syllabus, and the syllabus is having various topics. So ask the student to find out a topic whichever they are interested in, and then ask them to search some research topics on those. See, international business is not a small subject. Any subject, means if we talk about HRM, marketing, or any of the, every topic has, like, for example, consumer behavior. If we talk about the marketing, it has consumer behavior. It's like a very normal topic, but we cannot avoid it, because consumer behavior, consumer buying behavior is very much important, because marketing is all about buying things or something. So everybody is using this particular type word, but in different terms. So like this, you can ask them to choose a topic of their interest, then finding the research topics. See, Google can give you number of ideas, right? But you don't need to give them ideas. You have to tell them that come out with the ideas. Ask them to give us some topics, and those topics can be done easily, right?
Fine, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, let them work on some points. Every time we just give them a spoon, we spoon feed them, no? So that is why they are like, they ask us to do that. Let them explore things.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Any more questions, participants?
Anybody, any questions?
I think they don't have any more queries after this because we have already solved them queries.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we conclude our session now?
Yes, sure, ma'am. Thank you.
Any more questions, participants? If you have, so you can ask. Oh, so thank you so much, ma'am, for your precious time which you have spent here, and with your positive and more efforts you have made this session more and more successful, ma'am. Thank you so much. It will really help to our participants in their future also. So I wish all the best to all the participants for their future, and thanks to Dr. Ankita Jain, ma'am, for their special contribution in today's session. Our whole RFI team is thankful to you, ma'am. And thanks to all the participants also for showing their cooperation. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, all the participants and Team RFI, for giving me this opportunity. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you.